The apartment building stood at the edge of New Denver like a forgotten thing. Gray walls, broken lights in the hallway, the kind of place where people lived because they had nowhere else to go. It was the year 2147, and Earth had been part of the Galactic Concord for 60 years now. Aliens walked the streets of every major city. Spaceships landed at ports around the world. But here, in the Greystone Towers, none of that mattered. Here, people just tried to survive. Kira Vethsan had been surviving for 3 months. She sat on the floor of Unit 4C, her back against the wall, her thin fingers tearing a page from an old book. The paper was dry and tasteless, but her body knew what to do with it. Her species, the Velari, had evolved on a world covered in thick forests. They ate plant fiber, bark, leaves, anything with cellulose. When she arrived on Earth with nothing, she discovered that paper was close enough to keep her alive. Close enough, but not good enough. Kira looked at her hands. Her skin had always been silver, smooth like polished metal, beautiful in the light of her home star. Now it looked gray, dull, like old coins left in the rain. She was 19 years old, but she felt ancient. She slept 18 hours a day because her body had nothing left to give. The paper kept her alive, but it was not real food. It was like a human drinking only water and eating only bread. Slowly, surely, she was fading. She put the torn page in her mouth and chewed. The book was called Great Expectations. She did not know what the words meant. She had eaten half of it already. Outside the window, the sun was setting. Orange light fell across the empty room. There was no furniture except a mattress on the floor and stacks of old newspapers and boxes. The previous tenant had left them behind. Kira had seen them as treasure. 3 months of food, she had thought. 3 months to figure out what to do. But she had figured out nothing. She had no documents, no work permit, no money. The Galactic Concord had lost her case file somewhere between the Refugee Processing Center on Station Vela 7 and Earth's Immigration Office. She had tried to explain this to the authorities, but they did not listen. Without papers, she did not exist. And if she did not exist, no one would help her. So she ate paper. And she waited to disappear. Marcus Chun pushed his delivery cart down the hallway of Greystone Towers. He was 22 years old, tall, with tired eyes and hands that were always busy. He had worked for the grocery delivery service for 6 months now. It was not a great job, but it paid the bills. His mother had worked 3 jobs when he was young. She had taught him that honest work was never shameful. Only laziness was shameful. Only giving up. He stopped at Unit 4B and left a bag of groceries at the door. Then he moved on to 4D. Then 4E. He knew this hallway well. He knew which apartments ordered food and which ones never did. Unit 4C never ordered anything. Marcus had noticed this weeks ago. The apartment was supposed to be empty, but he had heard sounds from inside. Footsteps, movement. Once, very late at night when he was doing an extra shift, he had heard something that might have been crying. He had thought about knocking, but something stopped him. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was respect. Some people wanted to be left alone. But tonight, as he passed Unit 4C, he saw something that made him stop. The blinds on the window were old and broken. There was a gap between 2 of them, just wide enough to see through. Marcus did not mean to look, but the light inside caught his eye, and he turned his head, and he saw her, a girl, an alien girl. Silver skin, but faded. Large, dark eyes that seemed too big for her thin face. She was sitting on the floor, holding a book. And as Marcus watched, she tore a page from the book and put it in her mouth. She chewed slowly, painfully, like every bite was a battle. Marcus felt his heart drop into his stomach. He had seen aliens before. Everyone had. The Rethki with their 4 arms. the Drossians with their stone-like skin, the Veshans with their sharp angles and cold smiles. But he had never seen one like this. He had never seen one eating paper to survive. He stood there for a long moment. He knew he should call someone. Immigration, maybe. Or the police. That was what the rules said. If you saw an undocumented alien, you reported them. That was the law. But Marcus thought about his mother. She had come to Earth from Taiwan before the Concorde, back when immigration was different. She had told him stories about the early days, about being hungry, about being scared, about kind strangers who helped her when no one else would. You help people because it is right, she had said. Not because it is easy. Not because someone tells you to. You help because you can. Marcus looked at the girl through the gap in the blinds. She was still chewing the paper. Her eyes were half closed. She looked like she was giving up. He made a decision. He went back to his cart and took out 2 bags of groceries, vegetables, bread, fruit, rice, things that humans ate. He did not know if they would work for her, but they had to be better than paper. They had to be. He walked to the door of Unit 4C. He put the bags down on the ground. Then he turned and walked away. He did not knock. He did not leave a note. He did not want to scare her. He just left the food and hoped she would find it. The next morning, Kira woke to the sound of birds outside her window. She had slept 12 hours instead of 18. Her body felt strange. Not better, but different. Less heavy. She stood up slowly and walked to the door. She did not know why. Something told her to look. She opened the door and she saw the bags. For a long moment, she just stared at them. 2 paper bags filled with food. Real food. Vegetables in bright colors. Bread that smelled fresh. Apples, red and round and perfect. Kira did not understand. This was not how the galaxy worked. You did not give things to strangers. You traded. You bargained. You signed contracts. That was the rule. That was how every species in the Concorde operated. But someone had left her food. Someone had seen her and decided to help. Someone had given without asking for anything in return. She picked up the bags with shaking hands. She brought them inside. She sat on the floor and looked at the food for a long time. Then, slowly, she picked up one of the paper bags. She tore off a piece and ate it. Old habit. Survival instinct. But then she reached for an apple. She held it in her hands. She had never eaten fruit before. She did not know if her body could handle it. She took a bite. The taste exploded in her mouth. Sweet and sharp and alive. Nothing like paper. Nothing like anything she had ever known. Kira sat on the floor of her empty apartment, holding an apple, and for the first time in 3 months, she felt something that was not despair. She felt hope. Marcus came back the next day. He left another bag of groceries at the door of Unit 4C. He did not knock. He did not wait. He just left the food and walked away. He came back the day after that. And the day after that. And the day after that. Kira watched him through the peephole in her door. Every evening, at the same time, the human appeared. He was young, with dark hair and kind eyes. He wore the uniform of a delivery worker. He carried bags of food. And every evening, he left some of that food at her door. She did not understand. On the 4th day, she pressed her eye to the peephole and watched him for a long time. He put the bag down carefully, like he was placing something precious. Then he stood there for a moment, looking at the door. His face was soft. There was no anger in it. No greed. No expectation. He just looked sad. Sad and worried and kind. Then he turned and walked away. Kira waited until his footsteps faded. Then she opened the door and took the bag inside. Her hands were shaking. Not from weakness this time. From something else. something she could not name. On the sixth day, she started to feel stronger. The human food was strange to her body, but it was working. Vegetables had fiber. Bread had starches. Rice was gentle on her stomach. Her skin was still gray, but less gray than before. She slept 14 hours now instead of 18. She could stand without feeling dizzy. On the eighth day, she saw what the human had brought her: oats, kale, sweet potatoes, brown rice. These were different from the food before. These were specific, chosen. He was learning about her. Kira did not know how to feel about this. On 6 different worlds, her people had been used, trafficked, exploited. The Valhari were rare now, after the war. Some species saw them as valuable. Collectors wanted them. Criminals wanted them. Kindness was always a trap. That was what her mother had taught her before she died. But this human kept coming. And he never asked for anything. On the 12th day, he left a note. Kira found it on top of the grocery bag. A small piece of paper with words written in careful handwriting. She had learned to read English from the books she ate. The words came slowly, but she understood them. You don't have to hide. I just want to help. She held the note in her hands for a long time. The paper was thin. If she wanted, she could eat it. But she did not want to. She wanted to keep it. She put it in her pocket. On the 15th day, she opened the door. Marcus was there, holding a bag of groceries. When the door opened, he jumped back in surprise. For a moment, they just looked at each other. The human and the alien. 2 strangers who were not strangers anymore. Kira spoke first. Her English was broken. She had learned it from eating Charles Dickens and old newspapers. The words came out strange and formal. You are the one who brings food, she said. Marcus nodded. He looked nervous. His hands were tight on the grocery bag. Yeah, he said. That's me. Why? The question hung in the air. Kira watched his face, looking for the lie, looking for the trick. But there was no trick. There was only a young man with tired eyes and a grocery bag full of vegetables. Because you needed help, Marcus said. And I could help. So I did. Kira did not understand. But I have nothing to give you. I know. Then why? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he put the grocery bag down and sat on the floor of the hallway. He leaned against the wall across from her door. He looked up at her and smiled. Can I tell you about my mom? He asked. Kira hesitated. Then she sat down too, just inside her doorway. They were 3 feet apart, close enough to talk, far enough to run. Tell me, she said. So Marcus told her. He told her about his mother, who came to Earth from Taiwan before the Galactic Concord existed. Back when Earth was still alone. Back when humans only knew other humans. His mother had been young and poor and scared. She had no documents at first. She worked jobs that nobody else wanted. She cleaned buildings. She washed dishes. She did everything she could to survive. And along the way, strangers helped her. A woman at a church gave her food when she was hungry. A man at a factory gave her a job when no one else would. A neighbor watched her son when she had to work double shifts. These people did not ask for anything in return. They just helped because they could. My mom always said the same thing, Marcus told Kira. She said you help people because it is right, not because it is easy, not because you get something back. You help because someone has to be the first to try. Kira listened. Her large dark eyes were wet. She did not know if Valhari could cry, but she felt something burning behind her eyes. In the Concord, she said slowly, everything is trade. You give, you get. That is the rule. Every species follows this rule. Contracts, agreements, debts. That sounds exhausting, Marcus said. It is how things work. Maybe for them, not for us. Marcus shrugged. Humans are weird, I guess. We help people we don't know. We give things we can't afford. We do stupid things for strangers. He smiled. My mom called it being human. She said it was our best quality and our worst quality. It gets us in trouble sometimes, but it also makes us who we are. Kira was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I was on a refugee ship. After the war, my world is gone now. My people are scattered. The Concorde promised to help us. They gave us case files and numbers and told us to wait. I waited on Station Vila 7 for 2 years. Then they sent me here. But my file was lost. And without my file, I am no one. You're not no one, Marcus said. The Concorde says I am. The Concorde isn't here. Marcus picked up the grocery bag and held it out to her. I am. Kira looked at the bag. Inside, she could see oats and vegetables and a small container of honey. Food that would make her stronger. Food that someone had chosen just for her. She reached out and took the bag. Thank you, she said. The words felt strange in her mouth. She had not thanked anyone in a long time. You're welcome, Marcus said. He stood up and brushed off his pants. I'll come back tomorrow. Same time, okay? Kira nodded. Marcus smiled and walked down the hallway. At the corner, he turned and waved. Then he was gone. Kira sat in her doorway for a long time, holding the grocery bag. The sun was setting outside, painting the walls orange and gold. She thought about what Marcus had said, about his mother, about helping people because it was right, about being human. She did not understand it, but she wanted to. That night, Kira slept 12 hours instead of 14. Her skin looked a little more silver than before. When she woke up, she felt something she had not felt in months. She felt like tomorrow might be better than today. She felt like maybe, just maybe, she was not alone anymore. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the note Marcus had left. She read the words again. You don't have to hide. I just want to help. She folded the note carefully and put it back in her pocket. Then she made herself a meal of oats and honey and kale. It was the best thing she had ever tasted. Word spread quickly. That was the thing about humans. They talked. Marcus did not mean to tell anyone, but his coworkers noticed that he was buying extra groceries every shift. They noticed that his cart was always lighter when he finished the Greystone ride. They noticed that he smiled more, even though his job had not gotten easier. One day, his supervisor stopped him in the warehouse. Her name was Delia. She was 50 years old, with gray hair and a face that looked like it had seen too much of the world. She was tough and practical and did not waste time on small talk. Chun, she said, you've been spending your own money on groceries. I checked the records. 3 weeks straight. What's going on? Marcus hesitated. He did not want to get Kira in trouble. But Delia was staring at him with those sharp eyes, and he knew she would not let it go. So he told her. He told her about the alien girl in Unit 4C, about the paper she ate to survive, about the gray skin and the tired eyes, and the way she had looked at him like he was the first kind thing she had seen in months. When he finished, Delia was quiet. Her face was hard to read. Marcus waited for her to tell him he was being stupid. He waited for her to report Kira to immigration. Instead, Delia reached into her pocket and pulled out some money. She pushed it into his hands. Get her some fruit, she said. The good kind, not the cheap stuff. Marcus stared at her. But nothing. Delia's voice was rough, but her eyes were soft. My grandmother was a refugee too. Long time ago. Before the Concorde. Before any of this. Someone helped her when she had nothing. That's the only reason I'm here. She turned and walked away. At the door, she stopped and looked back. Don't let anyone catch you, Chun, and don't stop. Marcus nodded. He did not trust himself to speak. After that, things changed. Delia told a few people. Those people told a few more. Within a week, Marcus was not alone anymore. His coworkers started giving him extra food from their own bags. Fruit they did not need. Vegetables they had too much of. Small things that added up to big things. And then the neighbors noticed that Mr. Okonkwo lived in Unit 4L. He was 70 years old, a retired teacher from Nigeria. One evening, he saw Marcus leaving a bag at Kira's door. He asked questions. Marcus told him the truth. The next day, there was a blanket outside Kira's door. Thick and warm and blue. Mr. Okonkwo had left it without a word. The Rethke family in Unit 3C heard about the alien girl who ate paper. They had 4 arms and golden skin and had been refugees themselves once. They left a box of clothes outside Kira's door. Dresses and shirts and a warm coat that was too big, but would keep her safe in winter. Old Mrs. Vasquez in Unit 2 paid Kira's overdue utility bill. She did not tell anyone. Marcus only found out later, when Kira mentioned that her lights had stopped flickering. The Droshan veteran on the first floor, a being of stone and silence who never spoke to anyone, left a small tablet outside Kira's door. It had language programs installed. Velhari to English. English to Velhari. A gift to help her speak and understand. Kira did not know what to do with all of this. Every morning, she woke up and found something new outside her door. Food, clothes, gifts, small notes written in languages she was only beginning to learn. The humans wrote things like, "Stay strong," and "You are welcome here," and "We see you." The other aliens wrote things too. The Rethke family wrote, "We remember what it was like. You are not alone." The Droshan veteran wrote nothing, but he had carved a small figure out of stone. It looked like a bird with its wings spread. Kira kept it on her WINDOWSILD. She was overwhelmed. She was confused. She was afraid. She went to Marcus and asked him why. Why did all these people care? Why did they help someone they had never met? Why did they give without expecting anything in return? Marcus thought about this for a long time. They were sitting in the hallway again, the way they always did now. The sun was setting, and the light was golden on the old walls. "I don't know if I can explain it," he said finally. "It's just, this is what humans do. When we see someone hurting, we want to help. It's not logical. It doesn't make sense most of the time. But we do it anyway. The Concord does not work this way," Kira said. "I know. In the Concord, everything has a price. Every gift is a debt. Every kindness is a contract waiting to be signed." "That sounds lonely," Marcus said. Kira was quiet. She thought about her life before. The refugee ships. The processing centers. The endless forms and numbers and waiting. Everyone had been polite. Everyone had followed the rules. But no one had looked at her the way Marcus did. No one had cared whether she lived or died. It was lonely, she admitted. I did not know it then, but it was. A few weeks later, a journalist came to Greystone Towers. Her name was Sarah Park. She worked for a local news site, and she had heard rumors about an alien girl and a community that had come together to help her. She wanted to write a story. Marcus found her in the hallway, asking questions. He pulled her aside and begged her to wait. "Kira's undocumented," he said. "If you write about her, immigration will come. They'll deport her. Or worse." Sarah listened. She was young, with sharp eyes and a quick mind. She could see the fear in Marcus's face. She could hear the desperation in his voice. "Okay," she said. "I won't write the story. Not yet. But let me help in another way." She made some calls. She talked to some people. Within a week, she had connected Marcus with an immigration attorney named David Reyes. He was older, experienced, and had spent 20 years helping refugees navigate the system. He worked for free for people who could not pay. David came to Greystone Towers on a Tuesday evening. He sat with Kira in her apartment, which was no longer empty. It had furniture now, donated by the neighbors. It had food in the small kitchen. It had warmth. David asked Kira questions about her past, about her family, about the war, about the refugee processing system and the lost case file. Then he went home and did some research. 3 days later, he came back with news that changed everything. Your file wasn't lost, he told Kira. His face was serious. His voice was gentle. It was buried. Someone in the Concord's bureaucracy flagged your family name. They didn't want you found. They wanted you to disappear. Kira felt the room spin around her. Why? What did I do? It's not about you, David said. It's about your father. He showed her what he had found. Documents, records, files that should have been sealed but were not hidden well enough. Her father, Soren Vethsan, had been a hero. He had led the last defense of their homeworld against the hegemony, a powerful faction that had wanted to conquer the Volhari systems. The war had been brutal. Millions had died. In the end, the Volhari lost. Their world was destroyed. Their people scattered to the stars. But that was not the whole story. After the war, the Concord had absorbed the hegemony through a peace treaty. To make the merger work, they had agreed to erase certain histories. Resistance leaders were forgotten. War crimes were buried. The truth was locked away. Kira's father had been one of those erased names. And Kira, the last of his bloodline, was living proof that the Concord's peace was built on lies. They don't want you found, David said, because finding you means admitting what they did. You're not just a refugee, Kira. You're evidence. And someone very powerful wants that evidence to stay hidden. Kira sat in silence. Her hands were shaking. Her silver skin had gone pale. But when she looked up, her eyes were not afraid. They were angry. Then we will make them find me, she said. We will make them see. David smiled. It was a tired smile, but it was real. That's exactly what I was hoping you would say. The Concord sent someone within 2 weeks. His name was Varth. He was a Deshan, one of the oldest species in the galactic government. Tall and thin, with sharp angles and skin like polished obsidian. His eyes were cold. His smile was colder. He arrived on Earth with papers that said he was here to resolve a refugee case file error. Everyone knew what that really meant. Varth went to the immigration office first. He spoke with officials. He reviewed documents. He was polite and professional and terrifying. The humans who worked there felt a chill when he walked past. Something about him made them want to look away. Then he went to Greystone Towers. Marcus was coming home from his shift when he saw the black vehicle parked outside the building. He saw the Deshan getting out, moving with the careful grace of a predator. Marcus's heart started beating fast. He knew, without anyone telling him, that this was about Kira. He watched from across the street as Varth entered the building. Then he followed. The Deshan was standing in the hallway on the 4th floor when Marcus found him. Varth was looking at the door of Unit 4C with an expression that Marcus could not read. It might have been curiosity. It might have been contempt. You are Marcus Chen, Varth said without turning around. His voice was smooth and cold, like ice sliding over stone. The delivery worker. The one who feeds the Volhari girl. Marcus did not answer. Varth turned to face him. His smile was thin and sharp. I am here to help, Mr. Chen. The Concord cares about all its citizens, even the ones who have fallen through the cracks. She didn't fall through the cracks, Marcus said. She was pushed. For a moment, something flickered in Varth's eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or anger. Then it was gone, replaced by that cold smile. You have been misinformed, Boris said. But that is not your concern. What concerns you is this. I am authorized to offer you compensation for your cooperation. Tell me where the girl is, and you will be rewarded. Generously. He named a number. It was more money than Marcus had ever seen. More than his mother had made in 10 years of work. Marcus looked at the Deshan. He thought about the money. He thought about what it could do. Pay off his debts. Help his mother retire. Make his life easier. Then he thought about Kira, about her gray skin and her tired eyes and the way she had smiled when she tasted her first apple. About the note he had left her, the one that said, "I just want to help." "No," Marcus said. Varth's smile did not change, but his eyes grew harder. "You would be wise to reconsider. The Concord has laws, Mr. Chun. You are obstructing an official investigation. That is a serious offense. There are consequences for those who defy us." "Then there are consequences," Marcus said. His voice was steady. His hands were not. "I'm not telling you anything." The Deshan stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away without another word. His footsteps echoed in the empty hallway like the ticking of a clock. Marcus stood there until he was gone. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. "Sarah? It's Marcus. We need to talk. Now." The video went online the next morning. Marcus had recorded everything. The bribe. The threats. The cold smile of the Concord's representative. Sarah Park edited it together and posted it with a story that explained who Kira was, who her father had been, and why the Concord wanted her to disappear. The story spread like fire. Within hours, it was on every news site on Earth. Within days, it had reached the colonies on Mars and the stations in the asteroid belt. The hashtag Find Kira started trending. Messages poured in from around the world and beyond. People were angry. People were outraged. People wanted answers. Protests erupted outside Concord offices in 12 different cities. Humans carried signs that said, "Justice for Volhari," and "Earth protects its own," and "We see you." Kira. They chanted and marched and refused to leave. The other species in the Concord watched with confusion. This was not how things were supposed to work. Bureaucratic decisions were not questioned. Official investigations were not challenged. You did not fight the system. You accepted it. That was the rule. But humans did not follow the rules. Vorith was recalled to the Concord headquarters within a week. The official statement said he was being reassigned. Everyone knew what it really meant. He had failed. He had made the situation worse. The Concord was embarrassed, and they needed someone to blame. But that was not enough. Not for the people of Earth. The protests continued. The pressure grew. And finally, the Concord made an offer. They would give Kira full refugee status. They would provide her with documents, with rights, with protection. They would even offer her money as compensation for the administrative error that had caused her suffering. Kira refused the money. She only wanted one thing: her father's name restored to the historical record. The Concord hesitated. This was more than a refugee case now. This was about admitting that they had lied, admitting that they had erased heroes and buried truth to make peace with conquerors. This was about everything they had tried to hide. The senior species, the Veshans, the old powers who had built the Concord, did not want to give in. They argued that it would set a dangerous precedent. They warned that it would destabilize the peace. They said no, but Earth's representatives to the Concord Assembly did not back down. They stood in the Great Hall on Station Prime, surrounded by delegates from 100 different species. They were young, these humans, new to the galactic stage, small and loud and emotional. The older species looked down on them with something like pity. But when the vote was called, the humans spoke with one voice. The truth matters. said Ambassador Chun, no relation to Marcus, though people joked about it later. Not just when it is convenient. Not just when it is easy. The truth matters because it is the only foundation that lasts. You can build empires on lies, but they will crumble. You can bury history, but it will rise. And you can forget the names of heroes, but someone, somewhere, will remember. She paused. The great hall was silent. We remember Soren Vessan. We remember what he did and what he lost. And we asked this assembly to remember him too. The vote was close. Closer than anyone expected. But when it was over, the humans had won. For the first time in Concord history, a human delegation had successfully changed the official record over the objections of the senior species. The name Soren Vessan would be restored to the histories. His story would be told. His sacrifice would not be forgotten. When Kira heard the news, she was sitting in her apartment at Greystone Towers. Marcus was there, and Delia, and David the Lawyer, and Mr. Okonkwo, and a dozen other people who had become her family over the past months. She read the message on her tablet. Then she read it again. Then she put the tablet down and covered her face with her hands. She was crying. Really crying now for the first time since she was a child. Her silver skin was bright again, and her dark eyes were full of tears that sparkled like stars. They remembered him, she whispered. They remembered my father. Marcus put his hand on her shoulder. He did not say anything. There was nothing to say. Outside, the sun was setting over New Denver. The sky was orange and gold and beautiful. And somewhere, very far away, in the great halls of the Concord, a name that had been erased was being written again. Soren Vessan, hero, father, remembered, because someone had decided to be the first to try. 1 year later, the galaxy had changed, not in big ways. Not in ways that most beings would notice. The Concord still governed. The station still orbited. Ships still jumped between stars. But in the spaces between, in the whispers that traveled from port to port and world to world, something new was growing. They called Earth the Quiet Harbor. It started with the Volhari. The scattered survivors of Kira's people heard her story and began to move. Not in great numbers, there were not many of them left, but in ones and twos, making their way across the galaxy toward a small blue planet on the edge of Concord space. They had heard that Earth was different. They had heard that humans were strange. They had heard that if you were lost and forgotten, if the Concord had given up on you, there was a place where someone might help. And it was not just the Velhari, a Rethke family fleeing a corporate dispute. A Droshan veteran with nowhere else to go. A group of Veshan dissidents who had spoken against their own government. They all came to Earth, following rumors and hope and the strange reputation of a species that did not follow the rules. The Concord senior species watched this with growing unease. Humans had only been part of the galactic community for 60 years. They were supposed to be minor players. Loud, yes. Emotional, certainly. But ultimately, insignificant. That was what everyone believed. But now humans were doing something that no one had expected. They were taking in the lost. They were sheltering the forgotten. They were building something that looked a lot like a second chance for anyone who needed one. And the worst part, from the Concord's perspective, was that they did it for free. No contracts. No debts. No reciprocity. Humans just helped. They set up refugee centers. They created legal aid programs. They opened their homes to strangers. They did it because they wanted to. Because it felt right. Because someone had to be the first to try. It made no sense. It followed no logic. It broke every rule of galactic civilization. And it was working. Kira Vessan stood at the window of the community center in New Denver and watched the sunrise. She was different now than she had been. A year ago, stronger, healthier. Her silver skin gleamed in the morning light. like it had when she was a child on her homeworld. She had gained weight. She smiled more. She laughed a sound like wind through crystal, strange and beautiful, and the people around her smiled when they heard it. She worked at the center now. It was her job to help new arrivals understand Earth, navigate its systems, and find their place. She spoke to frightened refugees in a dozen languages. She told them her story. She showed them that survival was possible, that hope was not foolish, that the galaxy had more kindness in it than they had been taught to believe. Some days were hard. Some days the work felt endless. But every morning, when she walked through the doors of the center and saw the faces of the people she had helped, she knew she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Marcus still delivered groceries. He had not stopped, even after everything that happened. He had become famous for a little while, the human who fed an alien girl, the spark that started a movement, but he did not want fame. He wanted to help. So he kept working his route, kept bringing food to people who needed it, kept doing the small things that added up to big things. He had enrolled in night school too. Social work, he told Kira. He wanted to learn how to help people better, how to understand the systems that trapped them, and how to break those systems open. They still met every evening, the way they had in the beginning. They sat in the hallway of Greystone Towers, or in the break room of the community center, or on a bench in the park where the trees were starting to bloom. They talked about everything and nothing. They laughed at old jokes. They shared comfortable silences. They were not romantic. Not yet, maybe not ever. But they were family in the way that mattered. They had built something together, and that something was stronger than blood. On the anniversary of the day, Marcus first left food at her door. Kira went to see her father's memorial dot. It stood in the Concorde's Hall of Remembrance on station, prime, a vast building filled with monuments to the heroes of 100 worlds. For decades, Soren Vethsan's name had been absent from this place, erased, forgotten, a blank space where truth should have been. Now his name was carved in stone. Kira stood before the memorial for a long time. The inscription told his story, the war, the resistance, the sacrifice. It told how he had fought to protect his people, even when victory was impossible. It told how he had died so that others might live. It did not tell the whole truth. No memorial ever did. But it was enough. It was a start. She reached out and placed her hand on the cold stone. She closed her eyes. And for a moment, she let herself remember her father's voice, deep and warm, telling her stories before bed. Her mother's hands, gentle and strong, braiding her hair. The smell of the forests on her homeworld, the ones that were gone now, turned to ash and memory. The sound of her own laughter, back when laughter came easily. She had lost so much. But she had found something too. Something she had not expected. She had found Earth. She had found humans. She had found a community that looked at a stranger eating paper to survive and decided to help instead of turn away. Kira? She opened her eyes. Marcus was standing behind her, holding a bag of groceries. Old habit. He still brought them even though she did not need them anymore. "Hey," she said. "Hey." He looked at the memorial. "Your father?" She nodded. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "He would be proud of you." Kira smiled. It was a sad smile, but it was real. "I think he would be confused." All of this, she gestured at the memorial, at the Hall of Remembrance, at everything. "My people do not understand humans. We have spent thousands of years in the Concorde. We know how the galaxy works. And then you come along and break every rule. Is that a bad thing?" "No," she shook her head. "It is wonderful. It is terrifying. It is the strangest thing I have ever seen." She turned to face him. "Why do you do it, Marcus? Really, after everything? After all this time? Why do you keep helping?" Marcus thought about the question. He looked at the memorial. He looked at Kira. He looked at the bag of groceries in his hands. Then he shrugged. Because someone has to be the first to try. Kira laughed. That crystal sound, strange and beautiful, echoing through the hall of remembrance. She took the bag from his hands and looked inside. On top of the vegetables, there was a single sheet of paper. Marcus had folded it into an origami crane. Small and delicate and perfect. Kira held it carefully. Paper, the thing she had eaten to survive. The thing that had kept her alive. When nothing else could, she did not eat it. She kept it. They walked out of the Hall of Remembrance together, into the light of a dozen distant stars. Behind them, the memorial stood silent and strong. Ahead of them, the future waited, uncertain and vast and full of possibility. Somewhere in the galaxy, another refugee was making their way toward Earth. Another lost soul was hearing whispers about the quiet harbor. Another stranger was learning that there was a place where people helped not because they had to, not because they would gain from it, but because it was right, because someone had to be the first to try, because that was what humans did, and the galaxy would never be the same.